I absolutely love these. No, not the plants, the pots. Sounds daft, I know, but these plastic pots have been an absolute game changer for me, and I'm slowly transitioning all my plants into them.
Might take a while because I've got over 200 that I've been growing for over 10 years now, but it will be worth it. That's because they don't just look pretty, no, they've got some pretty unusual benefits too, as you'll see in a bit.
Make the change yourself and you'll start to see some epic plant growth, believe me. And this video is sponsored by Squarespace, but more on that in a jiffy.
So you'll have come across these pots if you've ever picked up an orchid from the shops. The grower pops all their orchids into them ready for plant parents the world over to buy. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen an orchid not sold in one of these. But why?
Well, surprisingly, it's all to do with the roots. It might surprise you to know that Phalaenopsis orchids actually like their roots exposed to light. Just like a Monstera wants its leaves exposed to the good stuff, an orchid wants its roots lapping up the sun too.
Phalaenopsis orchids are epiphytes, which means they naturally grow on trees. In the wild, their roots are hanging out, grabbing onto bark, soaking up sunlight and fresh air. They aren't buried in soil like most other plants, so putting them in a plastic or ceramic pot would be like sending them into total darkness.
The clear pots allow light to penetrate directly into the root zone, replicating their natural environment. And more light means more photosynthesis, which means a healthier, happier orchid.
But why stop at orchids? Clear plastic pots have lots of benefits for our regular friends like Philodendron, Monstera and Alocasia too.
If you're a subscriber to the channel, then you'll know how much I bang on about getting the watering right for our little green friends. It's one of the 3 building blocks to plant success after all, along with light and nutrients. But I still see lots of folks struggling with knowing when their plant actually needs a drink.
This always comes up in plant consultations I take with the viewers of this channel. Problems with plants, and watering is the main culprit. Now, these clear pots give us another tool to see if we actually need to give our plant a drink. This isn't possible with opaque nursery pots. We're reliant on using our untrustworthy finger or investing in a moisture meter, which is no bad thing of course.
But if your plant is living in super chunky soil like this Monstera is, then your moisture meter will be battling air pockets to give you a reliable reading. A quick peek further down the pot will give you a steer on just what's going on. See lots of condensation, then I'd leave it another few days and then check again. Looks drier than the Sahara, then I'd give him some much deserved H2O.
I recently made a video on the channel about turbocharging the growth of your money tree, and in that video I filmed myself watering said plant 6 times. Each time I absolutely drenched the little fella, you know, because I like to make the point that we should water thoroughly when it does come time to doing the deed. The last bit of filming was to show me repotting the plant into some fresh Cybertanica soil. Now, I thought the root ball would be absolutely drenched, so I readied myself for Operation Cleanup after. Well, once I started getting my feelers into the soil to break it off the roots, I was shocked that the bleeding thing was still dry in the middle. We're talking bone dry.
Honestly, I must have given the thing about 15 litres of water. This little event confirmed to me just how deceptive the top of the soil can be when it comes to watering. It can look absolutely soaking wet on top, but just 2 inches lower, it's still bone dry.
It seems my money tree has become seriously hydrophobic and was repelling water. If I'd had this little fella in a clear plastic pot, I would have easily been able to see the dry patches that were lurking underneath. And this is one of my favourite things about these pots, standing in front of my sink for 20 minutes making sure every bit of soil is wet.
You see, some uneven patches in the soil is a pretty big deal. Some parts of the root structure will be wet and others will be bone dry. Not good.
Now, if we're overzealous with our watering and do the unthinkable, which is to overlook checking the soil before we water, then we can easily run into problems with root rot.
Root rot isn't necessarily about the water, contrary to what you might have heard. Think of water as the spark that lights the fire. The fuel is the lack of oxygen. Waterlogged soil becomes anaerobic and root-munching bacteria have a party, slowly killing your plant in the process. All of this can happen to an unsuspecting plant parent without their knowing until it's too late.
Well, that would be to an unsuspecting plant parent with opaque pots, because keeping a beady eye on root health with these clear pots is a breeze. It's actually one of my favourite things to do. Again, watch the roots grow healthy and strong. Gives me an enormous sense of well-being. I'd much rather go round and check my plant's roots health on an evening than watch the latest thing on HBO.
I grew these Monstera plants all the way from seed. I made a video about it that you can check out up here, and I put them all into clear plastic pots. And look at the roots, super healthy, and dead easy for me to keep an eye on them. And this is exactly what you want to see from Monstera roots. Beige and plump and with not a hint of black and mushy.
It does look like that these are actually looking a bit dry, so it's time I give them a drink, I think.
Let's compare that to this alocasia that I have living semi-hydroponically in perlite. And as you can see, it looks like I might have some problems that I need to sort out. This is a plant that's been giving me grief lately and it looks like that's the culprit.
Let's have a butcher's and see if we do actually have root rot. Whilst I'm doing that, let's chat about today's video sponsor, Squarespace. If you're looking to build a beautiful website, start an online store, or even create a portfolio to showcase your work, Squarespace has you covered. With their easy to use templates and all-in-one platform, you can create a stunning website in minutes. And the beauty is, there's absolutely no coding required. Plus, they offer powerful analytics and marketing tools to help grow your online presence. They've even got AI to help you create your website.
Head to squarespace.com to start your free trial today, and when you're ready to launch, use code Sheffield for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
The other thing you'll notice about my baby monsteras is the roots poking out of the drainage holes. They're all at it.
To the untrained eye, it seems like these are ready for a repot. This tends to be the sign that most beginners look for to repot their plants. But us clear pot folk know better. You can quite clearly see that these guys are perfectly fine for the time being. Plenty of soil for them to hold on to water and nutrients.
Monsteras do prefer to live in slightly snug accommodation. That's estate agents speak for small, by the way. Other plants like Ficus elastica, not so much. Go slightly root bound, and these fellas tend to spit out yellow leaves in disgust at their parents. All of this can be easily monitored with clear pots. By the way, root boundedness isn't the only reason your plant will spit out yellow leaves. My troubleshooting handbook tells me overwatering and too much sun are also common causes, and you can nab this handbook completely for free with the link in the description. Check it out, it saved my plant bacon plenty of times.
If you're a propagation whisperer like I like to think I am, then you'll love these pots. It's the future, I'm telling you. Pop a cutting into one of these filled with either potting soil or perlite, and you'll know exactly what is going on down below.
One of the problems with cuttings is that we're sometimes our own worst enemy. We can't just leave them alone to do their thing, can we? We're too excited and so constantly pull out the plant of the substrate to check progress. Oh, is that just me?
All this pulling out and then putting back in seriously slows root making progress right down, and there's really no need to with these pots. I recently potted up some ginger into this pot to grow some more. I had absolutely no need to mess around with it because I could see the first root pressed up against the plastic.
If you're a subscriber to the channel, then you'll know all about the war that has been raging in my house for years at this point. No, not my Calafea Zebrina, that's actually a battle I've finally won. No, this war is still raging on to this very day. It looks like it will never stop. The Great Gnat War of Casa Sheffield.
Gnats are the annoying little gits that fly across your face when you're trying to watch this week's episode of Gardener's World. It only takes one gnat to make hay and you've got problems for years. They bury themselves into the soil, lay their eggs and multiply themselves by the million.
Clear pots won't do anything to remedy this, but it will help you know how big a problem you have. Seeing lots of them crawling around in the pot is enough to give you nightmares, let me tell you.
You can either bury your head in the sand or fight fire with fire. I chose beneficial nematodes, by the way, and that is a video for another day, one that you can watch up here in fact.
Now, it's not all sunshine and roses with these pots, and there are a couple of things you should be aware of that I've noticed.
I mentioned earlier that orchids absolutely love these because their roots are capable of photosynthesizing as much as their leaves. Well, it must be said that not all plants want their roots exposed to light, and doing so can actually do more harm than good. Calafea and peace lilies, for example, want their roots to be covered in potting soil. But does this mean we can't enjoy the benefits of a clear plastic pot for these guys? Of course we can. The workaround is simple. Put them into an outer pot so the light can't get to the roots. Now, I will admit that sometimes these can look a bit unsightly, but only if you're not prepared. Sit a plant in a clear pot on top of a saucer and you're asking for only one thing to happen: algae to start growing around the edge. Algae isn't the one, is it? And can really make things look gross, and these pots are susceptible to it. But the remedy is simple. You see, algae needs light and moisture to take hold. Get rid of the light and it will struggle to grow. So pop your plant into an outer pot and the problem's solved. None of the plants living in clear pots in my house have algae for this reason. Sometimes these pots don't come with the holes that you want. These have holes in the centre The problem is, this bit is raised. Water will pool around the edges where there are no holes, and this could lead to some issues if roots are sat in the little nooks.
To remedy this, I recently invested in this bad boy. This contraption is a soldering iron. Don't panic, it's not as intimidating as it might look or sound. It's just a hot iron in the shape of a pen that you plug in and then press against the plastic to easily make some holes where you want them. And they're not expensive either. I picked up this for only £15, which is about $20.
If I have convinced you that clear plastic pot is the future, then Cybertanica are selling a range of all different shapes and sizes on their website, and you can nab a 10% discount with my link in the description. See you in the next video, which you can watch by clicking here.